Alright, this is how the process works on paper. First you have some type of container. In this case it's going to be cylindrical. And then you fill it with water. And then you put a cap on that container and you put in an anode and a cathode. Let's just pretend this is the cathode. And the cathode is negatively charged. And then here you have the anode, which is positively charged. Now, this is going to be hooked up to a car battery, which is going to give you 12 volts, and this thing is going to draw depends on how much baking soda you use, a specific number of amps. But you are going to get 12 volts, obviously, because that's what a car battery puts out. And once you start to pass a current through using the water as a medium, it's going to generate little bubbles that are going to start to come up off of the both positively charged and negatively charged sides for the anode and cathode. You trap the gas and you run it through some kind of tube out into the intake of the vehicle, usually through the vacuum line, or you could do it in the airbox. There's a few different ways. Vacuum line works the best because it keeps a constant draw. You just have to make sure that it doesn't have too much of a vacuum, or else it'll suck the water right out. That's pretty much it. And in the next video I'll explain how I use the baking soda to speed up the reaction as using it as an electrolyzer, and what kind of can to use and what's the difference between them. Alright, I have the simplest electrolysis test you could perform. All I have is a bowl of water, and I have a 9-volt battery with 2 paper clips that have been taped on, and I wrapped them up in coils with that pair of pliers. So I'm going to dip this in the water, and you really can't tell, but over on the right there's a bunch of bubbles coming off of that thing. I'll try to get a picture of it, but there are a ton of bubbles. You can see the one on the right kind of blurry, and it's not as good in focus as the one on the left. And that's the negative side. So that's where all the hydrogen bubbles are going to come off of. The oxygen bubbles are going to come off of the positively charged electrode, or the anode. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of baking soda in there, stir it up, and you'll be able to tell the difference. Alright, here I am doing the same test, only with baking soda, and I mean you can see better in this one. The bubbles are just flying off that negative electrode. All those bubbles you see are again from the negative terminal. Those are all the hydrogen bubbles. And over on the left you can see some of the cloudiness of the oxygen, and you can see just with the 9-volt battery, I mean the battery's not getting hot, nothing's really getting hot, the water's still pretty cold, bubbles are just flying off of there. And so what the electrolysis thing does in your car is it basically increases the surface area, and you add a little bit more baking soda in order to get the same thing. And then you take the gas and then you put it into your intake. So this is just a little demonstration of what it is. And that's it. This is how I made my main canister. You can vary your cannon size. I used a 4-inch, but 3-inch works pretty well too. So this is it. I have a 1-foot tube of ABS plastic, and with ABS it's different than PVC. You need cement for your ABS. It's a different type of glue. But you basically buy the tube and you take your measurements and make sure the tube's going to fit. And then you have a cap that looks something like this. And then the cap goes on the end, obviously. And here's the top of the threaded part. And then you have one of the threaded, I don't have one right now with me, but the piece that threads in where the bolts are held, that hold the cell, that goes on this end. And you know, once you put it on, this isn't an actual size, this is just retardedly huge, but once you get everything ready, you push it all together and test it again in your car, make sure that it fits, and then, you know, yank it apart. And it does take some take a little bit of muscle work if you really put them on. But yeah, after that you should be able to glue them. And the final product, here's a 3-inch one. Should look something like this. Here's the cap. It's got some bolts on it. I loosen this. Out comes my cell. That's about it. That's everything. It goes right inside of here, and that just threads right on. And voila. That's the entire thing. Now, I think a moisture trap's a good thing to have because you're bound to hit some bumps, and you know, on a really hot day, some of the moisture could get up, and you really don't want that getting into your engine. It's not really that bad, but you know, you don't want it to leave the tank as much. You want it to collect somewhere before the engine. So, what I install in line, as I think I showed you, that I'm going to show you on one of the ending videos, I took a small piece of this. This is 1.5 inches in diameter, and I have 2 caps. And take the caps and you just kind of shove them on there, glue them on. It doesn't have to be that big. I mean, it needs to be overall about that size. Smash them on. And then you grab some of these hose barbs. These are nylon hose barbs. This company sells a lot of cool little stuff. Watts. I picked all my hardware up at Ace Hardware. They have like 90% of what you need. And you just drill 2 holes, and you put, you know, a hose barb here and a hose barb here, and then you have a line going from your main tank in, and then just the other side out into, you know, your vacuum line or whatever. And that's it. You know, it eventually, the water inside, it, you know, only collects a little bit, and it eventually evaporates away because the engine temperature. Yeah, and then that's about it. I'm going to show you exactly how I made my cell. First started out as a piece of stainless steel like this. I think it's 304 stainless steel. It really doesn't matter. You just want yourself a piece of stainless steel, and this isn't going to corrode like hot or cold rolled steel will. You don't want to use aluminum. Stainless steel is better. It is going to be kind of expensive. I paid like $3.90 a pound, and it was almost 10 pounds. So it was, you know, just around 40 bucks. You're going to get, you know, this. You don't need a really big sheet. You need a small sheet. I plan on making a couple. But I have a bandsaw, and I cut 3-inch wide pieces that look like this. They're 3 inches wide and 5 inches long. And I cut this notch out. And then after I cut the notch out, I drilled some holes so they look like this. 2 holes here for the nylon screw, and this is for the bolt to string them all together. The reason you cut the notch out is because you want to put these opposite of one another. For instance, here I have a couple plates ready to go. So here I have my first plate that's going to be like that. And my second one is going to be placed like that. And my third like that. So they're going to be opposite of one another. So when you put the